stab him, and then he like pulls a card out of like the wound.
Okay.
And like he changes the game.
I want to ask you something because I really do.
It's a tiny part.
It doesn't matter.
I just don't want people to go like, yeah. But it's like it's 3 scenes, and it's like when they go to like the magician bar. It's basically it's like Paul Rudd in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. The roles I've always said, why couldn't I have been that guy?
Right.
Like I've never just been in a comedy and flexed. So now I get to finally do it. And
let me ask you something, because I'm not just kissing ass because this is your show. I respect you for your comedy mind.
It's the audience's show, really.
It's the audience's show.
It belongs to the listeners.
But I respect your mind comedically very, very much. I think you're one of the funniest guys on the planet. And I want to know what you think about a guy like Jim Carrey, because I think it's become in vogue to say he's not funny and he sucks. I think Jim Carrey's awesome.
He's great. And I think he's great. And the thing is, I'm with you. Like when he does like Mr. Popper's Penguins and people go, whoa, how the mighty have fallen. I go the opposite way, and I go, if I'm Jim Carrey and I made $20 million a movie for, I guess, 15 movies, or let's say for 10 movies, he made $20 million a movie.
Right.
And he did whatever he wanted. And then including like going for no money with, like Milos Forman playing Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy to be able to play. To be Jim Carrey. Like, all right,
I just saw him on the movie the other night. It was amazing.
Let's break it down. Jim Carrey, like the goofy guy from In Living Color, Fire Marshal Bill and the lady in the Speedo bikini and stuff.
What was her name?
Becomes
Vera DeMilo.
Vera DeMilo?
Yeah.
Becomes the Mask. And crazy and smoking and all that. And then Ace Ventura and all that like crazy, ridiculous sophomoric humor.
Right.
And then he goes, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And then I'm going to play Andy Kaufman. Like, that's crazy that a guy could pull that off. And then for him to do Mr. Popper's Penguins, and people get out like, you hear people going, oh, the mighty have fallen. It's like, no, that's like, if I was making a fucking diagram of how I would want my career to go, you got to do the fucking Penguin movie, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always defend Cuba Gooding Jr. He won the Oscar for Jerry Maguire, and his very next movie was Snow Dogs. That fucker got like $5 million to do Snow Dogs. Man, I would have done Snow Dogs 8. I would have been like Dennis Haysbert in the Allstate commercials, just done that. And I would have been the Snow Dogs guy with the Oscar.
Right, and I think people overlook how important it is to kind of open yourself up to the kid demographic. Like if you can pull that off. Like The Rock to me is a guy who they say like, you're an action star, you should punch people. I was like, no, you don't get it, man. My 10-year-old nephew, when he sees The Rock, his head explodes. You know what I'm saying?
His head literally explodes.
It blows off. It
oh my God, his head exploded.
And if you can open yourself up to that and still maintain your credibility as an action star, which I certainly think The Rock has done, that's gold, man.
Like the movie where he walked around with a 2x4.
Walking Tall. I love that movie.
They should have just called it Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
It said he beats people up.
Hacksaw
USA. USA. I like, if my dream came true, I know Jim Hacksaw Duggan's son. He's a radio guy. He's actually very good. Ryan Duggan.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So, if you listen to the fans, you wind up sitting next to him. But at some point, you got to listen. Like, if you're a New York Jets coach or front office member, you got to go, maybe everyone's right and Brian Schottenheimer sucks.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, if it gets to the point where everybody notices it, you should, as a professional, have already made that connection.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You can't entirely tune them out. But you brought up something interesting, which was personal to me, and that's stand-up comedy. And people, and this I write stuff down now so I don't get so sidetracked.
You're a real professional.
I was on stage in Irvine, was my last gig, my live stand-up, and some guy in the front row just started yelling, Farley, and I go, oh, okay, it's not a request line, bro. Like I'm doing all like lines to try to quell it. I'm like, you go see Dice, yell shit at him, hickory dickory dock, hickey. Like that's kind of the gig for him,
right?
Like me, and I say it just works better when it's a monologue. Like let me just do it my way, okay? And he's like Farley, and I go, bro, and he was about 4 rows out. He was close. I go, I don't have any Farley jokes. I'm sorry. I don't know why he's great. And he goes, the story about shitting out the window. And I go, that's from a book that I wrote. And I was kind of cross with this man. Not like an asshole, but like, bro, like fucking, you gotta like dial it back. I'm in the middle of something. And he points to his son. He goes, he just got back from Afghanistan. Let him hear the Farley story, man. And I'm like, what? And I go, and I'm like, now I'm completely in.
Right,
like,
but also now you're somehow letting down a veteran because you didn't do a story that you had no idea that you were supposed to do.
So I say to the kid, I go, did you really just get back from Afghanistan? He goes, yeah. And I go, and you don't know the story? And he goes, no. I go, so just to be clear, and I point to the man, I go, you're asking me to tell a story that I've written in a book that you've read, that you've already heard to other people. And he goes, that's exactly what I'm asking. He said it perfectly clear. So I tell the Farley story, and it annihilates. And I tell it every show after that. And because I actually listened to the audience, and this guy's, I mean, he was like, like angst. Tell the Farley story. I told him the whole ride, his whole ride over here in the big B-2 bomber with troops in it. I texted him, wait till we come home and see Jay Mohr's Farley story. I told it on the podcast, right? Farley shitting out the window?
It's tough.
The best part about that story is when me and David Tell say to Farley, like, hey, don't leave. Like, not don't leave because, you know, we like hanging out with you, but we knew we had to add a caveat, like, hey, don't leave. We'll give you $100 to shit out the window. Like, hey, don't leave. Hang out. It's cool. It's fun. No, don't leave. We'll pay you to shit out a window. Like, that's how crazy we were. And then Farley goes, give me the money first. Like, that was his, like, thing. And then he shit out the window and wiped his ass with his hands and chased me and Dave around the floor.
The most non-stop funny person you've ever met? Chris Farley?
Non-thought?
Not non-stop funny. Like, just the most always on?
Non-stop funny. And then Fred Wolf had said to me, like, that he had conversation with Chris about, like, you could really be a great... And we all know this. Looking back, you look at Farley and go... You talk about Jim Carrey... Farley could have been a guy that, you know, suddenly played Belushi or played, you know, Fats Waller. Oh, he was black. Fatty Arbuckle. I meant to say Fatty Arbuckle, and I said Fats Waller. But, like, Farley was a guy that truly had greatness oozing.
I do think talent translates. If someone is God gifted,
yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe like Eminem could have been a painter. Or, you know, Dave Grohl could be an actor. You know, he was.
He was the devil for the D.
but I meant like
angels?
Like I think Dave Grohl, if he decided right now to put down all musical instruments and decided to be a serious actor, I mean, I think when you are there's people who work hard at their talent, like, and then there's people who came out of the womb to be a gift in the arts, and guys like that, I think, and gals can translate into anything.
No, just guys.
Just guys.
Farley was told by Fred Wolf, like, you can't keep, you know, like acting like you're throwing shit at people. And Fred Wolf told me that he had conversations with Farley. Fred Wolf, brilliant writer on SNL and just a great guy. Really a helpful guy when I was on SNL as far as like, yes, it's great. Like just putting wind in the sails for me and going, it's okay. Everything's batshit crazy. I'll put you into how much you bench. Everything's good. But he was the guy that said he would tell Farley, like, you can't keep, like, falling down on the street for strangers. But right. Farley was incapable of not pleasing someone. The instant gratification button that he had, whether it be food, women, or addictions, he had it. He was also the button. Where if he met people from, like, Iowa, like, oh, we're going to the M&M store. Oh, my God, you're Chris Farley. He'd go, bah! And he would just fall down in the street and do, like, a fucking curly shuffle. And then Fred Wolf would be like, why are you doing it? Like, just shake their hand. But to Farley, like, they needed that from him.
Yeah, well, that level of I don't know, that level of acceptance to someone, especially maybe who's battled self-esteem issues, like you said, oftentimes addicts, that can be problematic when they're in the entertainment industry because your profession becomes that becomes your way of becoming accepted. It becomes your way of filling that void. And I certainly can relate. And I never was and never will be as talented or successful as Chris Farley. But you
got a leg up. You're alive.
That's true.
Like
but
you don't know that because the trick is. Let me tell you something. You ever see the movie The In-Laws? And if you say which one, I'm gonna fucking punch your blue jujitsu belt out.
No, I have not.
With Peter Falk.
I haven't seen it.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
and Alan Arkin.
Okay.
And David Paymer, it's like one of his first movie roles. He's a cab driver, and he's sitting at a bar with Peter Falk, and he goes, "What do you do?" He goes, "I'm in the CIA." And he goes, "You in the CIA? Come on, man!" Like he doesn't believe it.
Right.
And then Peter Falk sets his coffee. He goes to a bar and orders coffee, and he looks at David Paymer and goes, "I'm the classic agency type: compact, strong, low to the ground. Are you interested in joining? The benefits are terrific. The key is to not get killed." That really is the trick to enjoying your benefits. So that's what I say to you. The trick, Mike, is to not die. The world's your oyster if you can just white-knuckle this fucking blue marble and put up, as Springsteen said, we can live with the sadness and love each other with all the madness in our souls. You just got to keep swinging. You're the host of Loveline.
Oh, no, and I am...
You're totally a guy
I'm
see.
overwhelmingly grateful for the things that I've got, and
I'm not questioning your gratitude.
My life far exceeds what I thought it would be 10 years ago. But my point being is, I don't have the it factor that a Chris Farley has, and I'm not even trying to put myself in that category. But I certainly can understand how a guy can get addicted to that level of. I mean, you've got to be able to relate. The feeling you get when you're crushing on stage, that's unbelievable. I mean, and that sometimes that crippling depression comes along with when it's over. You walk off stage and you're back in a dressing room all by yourself in some shitty comedy club. And just 10 minutes ago, you had people foaming at the mouth to what you were saying, waited on bated breath.
Literally
foaming at the mouth.
I love when a guy gets literally and figuratively wrong, you know? You go, hey, I got a 10-year-old nephew, and he sees The Rock, and his head literally explodes. Oh my God!
In my defense, I didn't say literally both times.
No, I'm just jumping on it.
But you know, that's the new hot chick thing, is overuse and bad use of the word literally.
I'm watching Rachel Zoe. Literally,
like I went to this taco truck. I went to this taco truck in Silver Lake last night, and literally, I wanted to die. It was so good, and you're like, you're
like, you know what? Literally, I want you to die.
You wanted to die
because you're disgusting. No, there's nothing worse than a hot chick on this earth. There is nothing more. There's not. There's nothing more infuriating. I'd rather sit next to a cigarette smoking Chinaman wearing a bird flu mask on a 14-hour flight, surrounded by crying babies, than be online at Ralph's with a quote unquote hot chick saying anything to me because I just want to look at her and go, "What the fuck do you know about anything? You have a vagina, you have breasts, you're pretty, and everything you've ever got in life, people fucking leapfrogged over each other to give to you."
My father said it. We were not arguing, but having an open discussion last season of the Laker game about what the best job is in the world. And I was saying, PGA golfer is a pretty good one.
Too much travel.
But if you're in, but you get to travel to beautiful places.
We got to wrap this up. I got to get on my plane and go to Singapore to go to work.
Way.
What the fuck are you talking about?
My dad came. He said,
"You ready to go to Perth? Perth Open."
The greatest job in the world is stunningly beautiful girl.
That's it.
It's the best job in the world.
And that's the exact same thing as being famous. The way people look at you when you walk through CVS.
In defense of pretty women everywhere, I think the line should be drawn that it's really women who are professionally hot. Because there's beautiful women that are also in law school, beautiful women that are also actors and actresses. There's beautiful women
like a Molly Sims, like that's Heidi Klum.
Oh no, I mean girls that are getting bottle service at Hyde tonight. Like their job is to go from place to place.
See, I hate them.
Those women suck. Those women truly suck.
Oh, okay.
But I think because a woman's beautiful doesn't necessarily make her one of those girls. But there are a lot of those girls, especially here in LA, that it's their job to find different guys to fuck. Louis C.K. called them girls who are professionally looking to get fucked. And I hate those girls.
They rarely fuck, which makes it maddening because you and I have both been guys at the gym. We've been at Crunch on the prowl. You go on the treadmill, set it to 7, and just stare at that ass in front of you for a half. You wouldn't run for a half hour if she wasn't sitting there doing her fucking.
I don't run, period. I go to those machines because I'm like, look at her ass.
It's all a big giant tease. They tie the sweatshirt around their waist so you can't see their ass. They just touched at the club. They touched their girlfriend just enough so you picture them eating each other's boxes.
Yeah.
So you get super. No one's eating each other's box. No one's doing. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna get drunk. They're gonna pull your fucking hat off your head and go, "You're wearing a hat now. I'm wearing a hat."
Yeah. Did I tell
Don't you watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills?
Did I tell you about what the meaning of life was? Like my friend, my friend Molly, that conversation. She totally figured it out. Like that's and you're driving home. You're like, come on, can I please just go back to my place with you?
Like, why aren't you just blowing me?
Yeah. Those women suck, but I have
Here's
to.
What's great.
There's a good. I mean, look, your lady's a perfect example.
I'm going to tell you how perfect. I found this out after the fact. Our first date, she took me. You know when they set up the what is it on Ocean Boulevard? They set up the different stations of the cross using mannequins from Sears out here.
What?
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
On your way home,